Are there words about a pandemic at this point?
No, we're not at all, and we have it totally under control.
We think we have it very well under control. We pretty much shut it down. It's going to disappear. One day, it's like a miracle, it will disappear. We can hold that down, as we're saying, to 100,000. It's a horrible number. We all together have done a very good job.
As the nation surpassed 4 million COVID cases and over 145,000 deaths this week.
It's something that we have tremendous control of. I think we're going to win faster than people think, I hope. You're going to lose a number of people to the flu, but you're going to lose more people by putting a country into a massive recession or depression. The virus is going to disappear. I feel about vaccines like I feel about tests. This is going to go away without a vaccine.
The coronavirus itself, SARS-CoV-2, is here to stay.
As the U.S. surpasses a staggering 400,000 deaths, the incoming CDC director says another 100,000 could die in the next month.
It is what it is. It's going to fade away. We're in very good shape.
And on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your response to this crisis?
I'd rate it a 10. I think we've done a great job.
The Nation, Waldorf Nation, everybody. Welcome to the show. Tuesday, we're back. We got a fantastic show for you all today, including a little bit of drama from our members of Congress, which should not be a thing. But it is a thing, and I'm going to talk about it. So it's going to be an interesting discussion here. We also have a moms group. Shocker. Anytime that there's a moms group, yeah. You know that there's some trouble. You're never going to guess what they say about civil rights or what they consider to be critical race theory. So we're going to talk about that. We have a basketball player on Tucker Carlson telling you to shut up and enjoy your freedom. Little ironic. We've got that. And then, of course, we have a very interesting article from The Intercept talking about how there are corporations, including Pfizer, that are trying to stop a proposed change to make it easier for whistleblowers to come out and, basically about fraud, corporate fraud. So, yeah. Interesting stuff. So, and also disastrous. But we've got a lot of that stuff going on today. So, shut up and dribble, non-basketball players. Yes, that's true. Except if you're on Tucker Carlson, then Tucker Carlson's like, "Oh, please tell me more. Tell us more about how you should, if you have any problems with this country, you should shut up instead of complaining about it." And it just. Freedom, the freedom to shut up. Okay, so Moms Group, for liberty, freedom, anything like that for anyone these expect something stupid, fascist, or both. Paige Schlar says, anytime I hear a Moms Group, I figure they're trying to cancel someone who's no longer alive, but important to the civil rights movement. We're not going to give it away too much because it's fun. So we'll talk about that. Some of the quotes in there are they're fantastic. I mean, it's just amazing. But, all right. Let's do it. Please like and share the stream if you haven't already. Very important you do so. Helps us out. As always, super chats, stars, all that wonderful stuff, bits, all of those are accepted. And so If you can, please help with the show by doing that. Let's see. There was a super chat here that I do not have up right now, and I should find it. You always get into that awkward part of the show where I do not have all my stuff ready. All right, so replace Garland for not going after Trump, says Daniel Payne. Yeah, can we just all just say that Merrick Garland, kind of crappy, not great. So, but you know, and it's funny because one of those in one of those stories, he actually does something good. So, you know, hey, interesting. Got to get your ducks in a row. I do not have ducks, and if I did, they would not be in a row. Never. You've never dealt with ADHD, have you? No. This is about as organized as I can get.
There's insanity in the control room.
Surprised I got it together this good. Jeez. Okay, anyway. Let's do it. The Boebert fight. Representative Lauren Boebert has stirred up a little bit of trouble with Representative Ilhan Omar. So, look, all of this actually starts last week. So, and this is, you know, right before, or I should say right around the holidays, and there was an incident, apparently, in the elevator. And on Saturday, she posted a video from an event that she had done talking about said elevator incident. And so let's take a look at that first.
I was getting into an elevator with one of my staffers, and he and I were leaving the Capitol. We're going back to my office, and we get in the elevator, and I see a Capitol police officer running hurriedly to the elevator. I see fret all over his face. I look to my left, and there she is, Ilhan Omar. Whoops. And I said, well, she doesn't have a backpack. We should be fine. So we only had one floor to go, and I was like, do I say it? Do I not? I looked over, and I said, oh, look, the Jihad Squad decided to show up for work today.
Oh, the Jihad Squad showed up for work today. She thinks she's funny. And of course, if she's, since she's pandering to a super racist audience, yeah, of course. It's like oh yeah, we have a Jihad Squad. I love it, love it. No, look, it's both racist and Islamophobic. Honestly, if you want to find terrorists, you're going to find that most terrorists end up looking like people like, I don't know, Lauren Boebert. Just saying. But also, let's be fair. A lot of terrorists look like me. I know. Now, I'm not a terrorist, but white men. And now, of course, you go specifically white right-wing men of all ages happen to carry out the majority of terror attacks in this country. And so that is backed up by factual information. You know, the thing that they don't actually believe, people like Lauren Boebert. No, as of 2020, right-wing extremist terrorism actually accounted for the majority of terrorist attacks and plots in the U.S. and has killed more people in the continental United States since September 11th attacks than Islamic terrorism. Now, look, if you want to talk about Islamic terrorism in the context of other countries, for example, in Europe, okay, then you can make a case that there is an issue with a big problem with radicalization of certain groups in the Muslim community and certain sects of Islam that are, you know, more fundamentalists and do more acts of violence. And you can have that conversation. You can have that conversation without resorting to painting the entire religion and every adherent of said religion as a violent savage. Okay? But that's not what Lauren Boebert does. No, she looks at someone like Ilhan Omar, who is black and Muslim, and thinks, well, she must be a terrorist, obviously. Now, here's the thing. Going back to, okay, most domestic terrorists in the United States look like someone like me. Well, is that because white people, I mean, you could make that argument. Is that because white people are more naturally violent? No, that's ridiculous. Do we need a travel ban on white men? Just until we figure out what the hell is going on. No. It's absurd, isn't it? It sounds absurd, but yet that's exactly the same argument that they use to ban Muslims. It's not, look, at the end of the day, this is not about a race or a religion. What this is about is radicalization. Radicalization can happen to members of any group. It's just right now, in this country alone, white right-wingers are the ones that have been radicalized the most. And in other places, Muslims radicalized. In other places, for example, with Myanmar, it's the Buddhists that were radicalized that are going after the minority Muslim population. And so it just really depends. Any group can get radicalized and do violence. This is not inherent to one particular race or ethnicity or group or religion. I mean, if you want to go back, there are plenty of times where, again, white Christians, very violent times. But anyway, now, after this, she decided that she was going to go and that she was going to do a little bit of a half-hearted apology. But at least this is what she says. She had posted this on her Instagram page. Let's take a look.
Hey everyone, this is Lauren with a quick update on a phone call I had today with squad member Ilhan Omar. I had reached out to her Friday, and 3 days later I was able to connect with her on the phone because I wanted to let her know directly that I had reflected on my previous remarks. Now, as a strong Christian woman who values faith deeply, I never want anything I say to offend someone's religion. So I told her that, even after I put out a public statement to that effect. She said that she still wanted a public apology because what I had done wasn't good enough. So I reiterated to her what I had just said. She kept asking for a public apology. So I told Ilhan Omar that she should make a public apology to the American people for her anti-American, anti-Semitic, anti-police rhetoric. She continued to press, and I continued to press back. And then Representative Omar hung up on me. Rejecting an apology and hanging up on someone is part of cancel culture 101 and a pillar of the Democrat Party.
It's cancel culture. Hanging up on somebody who is saying terrible things about you is cancel culture 101. Wow. Everything is cancel culture. She hung up on me. Cancel culture. I have been canceled. Oh my God. Buzzword. Total buzzword. By the way, what is Ilhan Omar just supposed to sit there and take it? Like, oh no, I can go and I can call you up and I can say all sorts of disgusting things about how you support terrorism and how you're anti-Semitic. By the way, the Democrats have also tried to accuse Ilhan Omar of being anti-Semitic for calling out Israeli settlements that, by the way, the entire world, the rest of the world, considers to be illegal. And so you call that out. Look, again, ADL does a fantastic job on a lot of different things, but sometimes they get it wrong and go a little too overboard when progressives actually try to criticize, or basically anybody tries to criticize the illegal settlements in Palestine and the treatment of the Palestinians. And so there is that issue. You want to call her anti-Semitic when literally the majority of anti-Semitic conspiracies originate and perpetuate on the right wing. I mean, QAnon goes right back to blame the Jews. Everything goes back to blame the Jews on the right, on the far right. And so, come on. Again, I love when they make that charge. Look, a lot of the dominionists, Christian evangelicals, they like Israel for one reason. Because end times. And in that end times, all the Jews return to Israel and then either have to be converted or killed. Yeah. So, and all they want to do is they want to make sure that all the Jews go back to Israel, and so that Jesus can come down and suck everybody up with the Holy Dustbuster. That's what they want. It's all Christian weirdo end time shit. So, yeah. Now, I'm sorry, I can't get over this is cancel culture. Oh my God, cancel culture. I can't believe you hung up on me. Oh, no. So anytime I've ever hung up on anyone, I canceled them, apparently. And here I am. I guess I was wrong when I said cancel culture isn't real, because I have canceled a dozen people, tons and tons of people. But okay, anyway. So let's get back to Ilhan Omar. So she responded to this, and she simply said, I hung up, I ended the call because it became, quote unquote, unproductive. I believe in engaging with those we disagree with respectfully, but not when that disagreement is rooted in outright bigotry and hate. So there you go. Let me just add that, look, if you're going to, I totally am fine with having conversations with the other side, obviously. But it's got to be in good faith. Lauren Boebert is not a good faith actor. No, Lauren Boebert, this is what happened. She talked a bunch of shit, did a non-apology for talking shit, and then when Ilhan Omar correctly deduces that this person is not of good faith and did not accept the so-called non-apology, then Lauren Boebert goes on to claim, oh my God, I am a victim. I'm a victim. I can't believe, why are you victimizing me so terribly? How dare you? All I did was just, think about it this way. All I did is I just sat behind you in class and I flicked your ear over and over and over and over again, annoyed the shit out of you. And then when you punched me in the face, oh my God, how dare you punch me in the face? I'm the victim here. Why did you do that? Look, this is a game to them. There are nothing more than high school bullies. They pick and they pick and they pick. And then if you fight back at all, do anything, well then of course, they're the victim now. Ilhan Omar, how could you be such a bully? By the way, you're a terrorist. Lauren Boebert, again, here's what Lauren Boebert did, okay? Lauren Boebert literally helped the insurrectionists by tweeting out congressional members' locations while being repeatedly told not to. She wanted the insurrectionists to find Democrats, to find them. Why? But these are the people that were chanting, hang Mike Pence. Well, because she is more on their side than anyone else. And you want to tell me who's more un-American? Who's more on the side of terrorists? No, these people, not only are they the weakest snowflakes you've ever seen, and you could ever see, but they are also dangerous trolls and are professional victims. Just professional victims. They're so good at it. All right. We're not done with the drama. Oh, no, not by far. Because here comes Marjorie Taylor Greene. Oh, no. Okay. In a now very public feud between Representative Lauren Boebert and Representative Ilhan Omar, there are more people that have weighed in, including Marjorie Taylor Greene and Representative Nancy Mace. So now, let's go to Representative Nancy Mace. So you might remember her from the story that I was doing where she was basically flip-flopping in the vaccine. She was telling the CNN audience one thing, and then the Fox News audience something else. And so now she kind of very lightly criticized Lauren Boebert for some of her remarks about Representative Ilhan Omar. And by the way, in doing so, she didn't directly call out Lauren Boebert. All she did was say, well, both sides. In fact, watch.
I have time after time condemned my colleagues on both sides of the aisle for racist tropes and remarks that I find disgusting, and this is no different than any others. As a member of Congress and seeing such division in our country, we all have a responsibility, both elected members of Congress on both sides of the aisle and the American people in our communities and at work, in our communities and everything else, to lower, we have a responsibility to lower the temperature, and this does not do that.
Oh, but it's both sides, right? It's both sides. Both sides. There are both sides here, and it's both of their fault. They both need to lower the temperature. You both of you just need to sit down because you are both causing problems here. Okay, all right. Wait, what did Ilhan Omar do? Nothing. This was unprovoked. There's no both sides. But again, Nancy Mace. So Nancy Mace, I finally figured her out. I kind of pinned her down. She's one of those Republicans who cannot make a decision without consulting a focus group. Seriously, though. She is one of those establishment Republicans that really kind of walks the fine line. So she's like, oh, I got to pander to the base, but then I also got to seem reasonable because I can go on CNN, And so she does occasionally call out her own side, but she has to do so in the weakest, most milquetoasty way. And that, of course, again, she has to tailor the message to the audience. Yet, even that super mild critique, and she went on to say, well, I didn't get elected to Congress to throw bombs on Twitter, and that's probably the harshest part that she said, and to, raise money from people. But, that mild criticism, that was too much for Marjorie Taylor Greene, who then just went nuts. First, in a tweet on Tuesday, she basically said that Nancy Mace is trash. Fun. Mace, you could back up off Lauren Boebert or just go hang with your real gal pals, the Jihad Squad. Again, super racist and completely unnecessary. Why? White right-wingers have literally killed more Americans than jihadis since 9/11. Insane. But she then goes on to Steve Bannon's podcast, one of her favorite places to hang out since she actually doesn't have really any duties or any job to do because she's kicked off all her committees. And so she goes on Steve Bannon's podcast, and first she directs an attack against Ilhan Omar, and then afterwards Nancy Mace. Take a look.
She hates Israel. She's pro-Hamas. She's pro-Al-Qaeda. She's basically an apologist for Islamic terrorists. There is no need to apologize to that woman because she will never stop. She's bloodthirsty. She wants Republicans completely taken out. She wants Republicans jailed. She does not care about our country. She's anti-American.
She wants you guys all off committee. She doesn't want you to have any voice at all.
No, and so Lauren tried that route, but it will never be enough for them. It is never enough for the Democrats. It's never enough for Ilhan Omar. It's never enough for the Jihad Squad. Nothing is good enough for them. No one could bow deep enough for them to be satisfied because they want all of us gone. Okay. This woman is constantly attacking our ally Israel, constantly defending terrorism, and she even posted the Minnesota Freedom Fund bail bond link to bail out domestic terrorists when her own city was on fire. This is one of the worst members of Congress. She's a disgrace to our nation. And then here we have Nancy Mace stepping up and attacking Lauren Boebert simply because Lauren Boebert had said something about Ilhan Omar. It's like, no big deal. No one cares. These people say worse things about us. They call us all kinds of names. They call us white supremacists. They call us racist. They call us insurrectionists. And those are nasty words that none of us are. None of us are those things. So when Nancy Mace goes out and wants to attack Lauren Boebert, yeah, she deserves to be called out because Nancy Mace is the one out of line.
Wow. Just wow. There's so much projection there. It's insane. So again, if you noticed all the insults she threw at Ilhan Omar, apologist for terrorists. Oh, she loves terrorism. She loves terrorists, Islamic terrorists. She loves Al-Qaeda. No, she doesn't. That's ridiculous. She wants Republicans taken out. Electorally, yes. electorally. She's anti-American. She's anti-Semitic. Girl, you talked about Jewish space lasers. What's wrong with you? And it's so much. There's so much. But I love how she says, I can't believe they call us all these names. They call us white supremacists. They call us racists. They call us insurrectionists. Oh, why would they do that? Because you're doing that. It's not as if we're saying this for no reason. Again, has Marjorie Taylor Greene ever listened to herself? I know it's like nails on a chalkboard for the rest of us, but has she actually looked at the words that she says? Has she actually heard herself? I mean, she again attacks Ilhan Omar, calls her a terrorist. Why? Because Ilhan Omar is a black Muslim immigrant. That's it. She's never done anything terrorist or terroristy. Never supported anything like that. Why? Why would you attack her? Well, I don't know. Because she's a racist. I'm just saying. Not to mention, again, some of the other stuff is that she has said. I mean, remember, she's put out some pretty, very, very anti-trans statements. So against transgender people, against immigrants. She said that immigrants were having big barbecues and throwing super spreader parties at the border before wanting to come in and give all Americans COVID. And that's ironic for somebody who owes about $60,000 in mask fines and promotes ivermectin for COVID-19. It's all reactionary garbage, okay? And so it's reactionary garbage, it's projection, and of course, she plays the victim. This whole thing started when Lauren Boebert made a racist remark towards Ilhan Omar, saying that, oh, I confused her with a literal terrorist. And then when asked for the public apology, of course, to be an actual leader in the party and denouncing some of the racism that is inherent in the discourse, no, she did what every Republican does. She doubles down, she plays the victim, and now so is Marjorie Taylor Greene. Because again, oh, I can't believe you would call me a victim. Why? Why would you do that? Call me why would you call me these names? Why would you say that I'm a racist when I say horribly racist and anti-Semitic things? This is the white grievance party. Okay? That's what the current Republican Party is. They didn't always used to be that way. And obviously, not all of them are good faith actors. And I think they will be the reason, and I hope I'm wrong about this. I hope that I'm wrong about this. But if something violent happens in the future, and it's not like something already violent hasn't happened, but they will be the reason people get hurt. Being called a suicide bomber is pretty racist, eh? Yeah. All right. Kentucky Progressive Dragon says, and this is the right wing, I'm proud of the Taliban building back better. I've seen that was Boebert saying that. Literally all of the right terrorists. A lot of white conservative snowflakes that complain about everything. Speaking of snowflakes, this next story. It's snowing all up in here. Ain't because it's winter. Okay. A far-right group doesn't want your children learning about actual history. So, and they have tried and thankfully failed to get certain books and certain lessons thrown out. So far. So now, the Tennessee Department of Education has refused to investigate claims by a group called Moms for Liberty that a second grade curriculum, which includes books about Black civil rights icon Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., is anti-American and anti-white. Here we go. The Williamson County, Tennessee chapter of the group Moms for Liberty filed an 11-page complaint with the state, claiming that the classroom books and teacher manuals reveal both explicit and implicit anti-American, anti-white, and anti-Mexican teaching, according to the Tennessean. Now, the complaint, signed by local chairperson Robin Steinman, who Reuters has called an Air Force veteran and white mother of three, claims the Williamson County School District is violating the law banning critical race theory. So Tennessee is one of those states that said, critical race theory? Not in our schools. No, we can't have kids learning about that. Well, first of all, it's a college level course, so the kids aren't going to learn about that. Never was in the schools, never was in K through 12. And, it's a graduate level course that does examine some pretty important subjects when it comes to systemic racism. And so, and it also, kind of looks into the impact of that systemic racism on current minority groups. But the moms say that, no, this is critical race theory, learning about civil rights and Martin Luther King Jr., and in fact, here's a quote: "The relentless nature of how these divisive stories are taught, the lack of historical context and difference in perspective, and the manipulation pedagogy all work together to amplify and sow feelings of resentment, shame of one's skin color, and or fear." They talk about perspective. What other perspective is there when it comes to civil rights? There's pro-civil rights, and then there's the anti-civil rights. You want the racist perspective? Well, on the one side of this, there were people fighting for access to things like drinking fountains and bathrooms and good jobs and just, being treated as no longer a second-class citizen or a third-class citizen, but actually equal, according to the law. And of course, on the other side, they're the ones who think black people are genetically inferior. Both sides. So they're even. Like, that's what they want. That's what these groups want. They don't want you learning about this stuff. They don't want you, they want you to see the perspective of the racists. It's insane. And as far as, wanting to see that perspective, no, I don't want to see that perspective. Now, I want to show you more of this complaint. So here's some images of that. All right. Let me see if I have the right one. I submit, this is from the complaint, that Williamson County Schools is in violation of the state law with the teaching of great minds, BBC, wit and wisdom, English language arts, curriculum grade 2, module 3, civil rights heroes, which includes the following anchor texts: Martin Luther King Jr. in the March on Washington, Ruby Bridges Goes to School, My True Story by Ruby Bridges, The Story of Ruby Bridges, The Separate is Never Equal, and she added that the classroom, books, and teacher manuals reveal both explicit and implicit anti-American, anti-white, anti-Mexican teaching. Additionally, it applies to second grade children that people of color continue to be oppressed by angry, vicious, scary, mean, loud, violent, rude, and hateful white population, and teaches that the racial injustice of the 1960s is today. Well, okay. So, now, there is an oppressive, vicious, scary, mean, loud, violent, rude, and hateful group of white people out there. It's true, they do exist. Are they the majority of America? No. But they do exist, of course. And I think groups like that always end up existing. And some of them are in positions of power and great influence, although most of them you'll just find on Fox News. But as I said, the majority of the country is not racist. Yes, there are issues with implicit bias, racial stereotyping, etc. But what critical race theory looks at is institutions. And there are institutions that exist today that are still racist. I mean, you look at the carceral system, You look at policing, you look at current zoning laws, you look at the way that the census is actually, because the census was just done. And, well, the census allows you to draw congressional lines. So what's happening right now? Republicans are drawing, and by the way, Democrats gerrymander as well, but Republicans do this in a way where, again, it also benefits certain Democrats in certain districts. They will draw lines to include as many black people in one geographic area, in one district. And sometimes these districts will take crazy, crazy shapes. Now, that's good for the Democrat because, well, that's a strong district. I'll always be safe. I like safe districts, so nobody's going to challenge me on that. I can have this district full of all the black people. But the Republicans then get the districts that are not filled with black people, that are filled with white voters. And a lot of these white voters might generally vote more Republican. And so that's one of those systems that is racist. So yes, as one of you puts, political segregation. Thank you, the Dark Canuck. That's an excellent phrase to put it. Political segregation. And then, of course, there's other things. For example, you have, racism when it comes to bank loans, for example. If you're someone from the African American community, it's actually more difficult for you to get a home loan. And even it used to be even more difficult because they wouldn't lend out to people in certain areas. They literally called it redlining. And so there is, again, other things that are affected by race. Black people end up actually having the largest share of student loan debt. So they end up owing more on average than other demographics. Why is that? Well, they end up having to borrow more and they get further into debt. You also have groups that have fewer assets, like homes and businesses. You have poorer schools, higher crime neighborhoods, policing, incarceration. And again, all of that really goes down and back to the fact that when the day the first slave ship landed on our shores, there was not an even playing field in this country. I'm not saying other groups haven't had it bad. Look at indigenous people. Holy crap. You also had groups like the Chinese that were, discriminated against. You had the Irish discriminated against. You had a lot of groups that were discriminated against. But nobody has had to deal with, other than African Americans, chattel slavery and the impact that has had on the community and the descendants of those slaves. Again, there's a difference here. I know a lot of conservatives like to create a false equivalence between, for example, indentured servitude, which was, you had European immigrants that would come over and they would be sponsored, right? Basically, you'd have somebody who's wealthy pay their way. But when they got here, they had to work for 5, 10, however many years to pay back that debt. That's indentured servitude, and they'd have to do it for free. So now, again, that is different because they weren't dehumanized the way that black people under chattel slavery were. Again, for their entire life, enslaved, no chance for freedom, no buying your way out of freedom, no paying off your debt, just you are my property forever, and I will do whatever I want with you. I can chain you, I can whip you, I can rape you, I can kill you, and I won't see any repercussions for that at all. And if you try to escape, you will be caught by the police and brought back because you are nothing but property. That's how they felt about black people. And so that entire legacy has had a profound impact on this community. And so these things are not the same. The vestiges, by the way, of this system of turning people into property still exist to this very day. But no. Steinman is going to go further. She's actually going to suggest that slavery and Jim Crow were positive achievements like unity and the overall improvement of our country. Wow. So, look, this country, it's a sad part of our history, but this country was literally built off the backs of slave labor. There was an entire economic system that was built around this in the South, especially. But by the way, up until a certain point, slavery existed everywhere in the United States. And so it was just primarily utilized as an economic model in the agrarian South for the plantations and the fields. That economic system required exploited, enslaved labor. And in order to get those slaves, they had to be dehumanized and turned into literal property. So now afterwards, after abolition, after the Civil War, after the slaves were freed, you had Jim Crow, which is essentially ex-slave owners getting mad, being very, very mad that their property was no longer theirs, all right? And they were mad, so they set up a system where, you know, you had so many different roadblocks put in their way. And of course, you add in the Klan, that's entire purpose was to go scare black people so that they wouldn't exercise their political, you know, their newfound political power, what limited it was. And they set up all these rules and these laws and these systems in order to spite the people that used to be their property. It is a terrible history. These are terrible things. Where's the unity here? Where's the unity? You can't create unity. You can't solve these problems by ignoring the past. And again, all of that trickles down to today with the lack of, for example, wealth building in the black community. Plus the fact that, of course, this has led to things like Tulsa, the Tulsa Massacre, Black Wall Street being burnt down by groups of angry racists. And so you have all of that. But again, people like these moms don't care. They don't want you learning the past. They don't want anybody learning the past. They want the past to just be forgotten. And for whatever reason, it doesn't really matter. What if like they're embarrassed or they just trying to continue the perpetuation of these systems in some form or another? I don't know. I don't really care. All I know is that it's wrong. And it's disgusting. Now, there's more to this complaint, by the way. I'm not done. Okay. So let's bring up here image 2. So here's this. This is some of the stuff that was in these lessons that they objected to. Okay. They didn't object to this happening. These are real things that actually happen, but they object to actually showing and teaching this. So, for example, they say pages 22 to 23 show photographs of white firemen blasting black children to the point of bruising their bodies and ripping their clothes. Pages 18 to 19 show photographs of white and colored drinking fountains asking, which of these fountains looks nicer to you? Okay. Go to the next one here. The children who marched, sang, and prayed under blasting fire hoses were acting nonviolently. They showed the world the power of peaceful protest. Nonviolence wasn't an easy idea, especially for Southern blacks. They met hated every day, including from the all-white police force, expected unfair arrests, beatings, and worse from police. So right there, it shows how police were complicit in the system, and also showed how, and this counters a lot of the narratives that you hear from the right about black people and protests. For example, Ferguson, Kenosha, all these different places where, oh my God, rioters and looters. They're all rioters and looters. Well, here you have, and by the way, they said the same thing about Martin Luther King Jr., that, oh, they're just rioters and looters, civil rights protesters, rioters and looters. Terrible. We're terrible people. And then they also call out, of course, to the black community, one man stood for hate more than any other person in Birmingham, Eugene Bull Connor, Commissioner of Public Safety, spent that he had led the police and fire departments. Connor used his job, maintained segregation and bully black people. Lesson 30 teaches Different Voices by Anna Gratz Cockerville, detailing Lucille's point of view of firemen with hoses and water exploding, kids falling down, photographer's point of view of water hitting the kids in the back and water hurting the kids. Again, Going back to what they talked about perspectives, what other perspective is there? Of the firemen? Book 2, Ruby Bridges Goes to School. Ages 2 to 3 depict photographs of a neighborhood sign that says, "We want white tenants in our white community." And smiling, a white boy holding a sign that says, "We won't go to school with Negroes." Ages 14 to 15. There's a group of white people holding up signs that "We want segregation and we don't want to integrate." All of this literally happened. Ages 24 to 25 shows a Norman Rockwell, it's supposed to be Norman Rockwell painting. Problem we all live with, depicting Ruby Bridges walking to school, the N-word in the background. And look, it's a right-wing complaint, so of course you're going to have spelling errors and all sorts of grammatical problems. Finally, one more here. Here's what they're saying about it. Saying that some children are seeing counselors to overcome the emotional trauma inflicted upon them by what they learned in Tennessee public education. It must stop. History must be taught through an objective lens and complex subjects presented in an age where they can be analyzed and understood in appropriate historical context. You know, at an age where we have already drilled in our super racist beliefs into them and where, you know, facts and logic can no longer get to them. Targeting elementary age children with daily lessons on fighting past injustices as if they are occurring in present day violates Tennessee law and will sow the seeds of racial strife, neo-racism. How? Neo-segregation. Oh my God. What the hell? I love how by the way, this is not substantiated. Okay. But they're saying kids are seeing counselors because of the trauma of learning things that actually had happened in the past. Oh no. And their conclusion is, so let's just not teach them ever. So here's the irony about all of this. I'm a millennial, all right? My generation is constantly being called weak, snowflakes, sensitive. Oh, you're so sensitive, you snowflake millennial. Oh, you got the participation trophies, so your little fifis didn't get hurt. Never mind the fact that we didn't want the trophies. We didn't come up with that idea. You came up with that idea. You gave us the trophies. And we were just like, okay, I don't want to hurt your feelings, you know. You're going to give me a trophy for nothing. All right, well, fine. If I don't take it, then that's mean. I'm not going to do that. All right, fine, whatever. But now, that same generation that complains about millennials, they're now saying, oh my God, will you just think of the trauma that's happening to kids for learning actual history? And now they're also saying, because of that trauma, we're going to ban this from school. We're going to ban it. We're going to ban it. Ban education. Ban these books. Ban MLK Jr. Ban Ruby Bridges. That's what they want. I don't know. To me, it kind of feels like they're the ones who have some pretty hurt feelings. They're feeling some things. All right? They're real hurt, real triggered by the existence of facts. Weird. And by the way, same people who flipped out about Dr. Seuss. Now, Dr. Seuss, oh my God, I can't believe they canceled Dr. Seuss. Dr. Seuss, the family that owns the publishing, pulled that book because not only was it old and had some questionable material in it, but also because it didn't sell very well. But the same people who flip out on cancel culture are canceling MLK Jr. and Ruby Bridges and education. There is so much irony. There is so much projection. There is so much censorship, all wrapped up in this critical race theory discourse. And they don't see it. They just don't see it. Insanity. Just complete and utter nuttery. So many snowflakes here. And it ain't the kids. The kids are fine. The kids are going to be all right. It's the parents that are the actual snowflakes. I like my participation trophies, but they didn't skew my view of reality. Yeah. Again, it's... I mean, the whole discourse is just ridiculous. You know? Like, oh, you kids with your participation trophies, you gave it to us. Like, it makes no sense. It makes no sense. All right. Anyway, let's go from that to shut up and enjoy your freedoms. A recent guest on Tucker Carlson's show wants you to shut your mouth and start appreciating freedom.
It seems like people who move here from countries that are not free appreciate the freedoms here much more than a lot of us who grew up with those freedoms. Have you noticed that?
You know, I feel like I'm going to just say this, and I'm going to be honest. People should feel really blessed and lucky to be in be in America, because, you know, they love to criticize it, but when you live a country like Turkey or you know, China or somewhere else, you will appreciate the freedoms you have here.
Yes.
You know, so I feel like they should just, please, they should just keep their mouth shut and stop criticizing the greatest nation in the world, and they should focus on, you know, their freedoms and their human rights and their democracy. So this is, America gave me everything I have, so I definitely appreciate the United States of America.
That's how I feel.
All right, so that's NBA player Enes Kanter Freedom. No, that's literally his name, because he has changed his name to Freedom. So, look, he just became an American citizen. Now, before I get into all that, I couldn't help but notice Tucker Carlson's shit-eating grin. Like, as he was saying, oh, you should just, you know, be quiet and not criticize our country, the greatest country in the world. He's like, oh, yeah. Oh, I like that. Yeah, so are we having somebody who, you know, that's an immigrant who's trashing other Americans? Oh, yeah. Oh, I love it. Look, Fox News, they love bringing on people, immigrants to bash immigrants, or immigrants to bash Americans who might actually have a legitimate issue with this country, with certain things this country does, or I should say certain things the government does. Which, by the way, Tucker Carlson, don't you also criticize the government? But okay, let's just go back here to Enes Kanter Freedom, right? So again, he's an immigrant. Welcome to America. So because he's an immigrant, maybe, you know, a very newly minted immigrant. In fact, he just became a U.S. citizen on Monday. So very, very new. So let me kind of explain freedom to you, so you don't quite get it. Freedom is not shutting up. Freedom is the ability to criticize the government when it does things that you don't like. Literally what America is based on. I mean, you've heard of no taxation without representation. Conservatives like to say that all the time, right? Well, that means if you pay your taxes, the government that you pay, you get the promise that you will be represented by said government. And that if you do not like the representation that is afforded to you, you can criticize that representation and remove it through the electoral process. Real simple how that works, okay? And that, of course, involves not shutting up and it's just enjoying your freedom, okay? Literally, it's part of the First Amendment. The right to petition the government for redress of your grievances is the right to make a complaint or seek the assistance of one's government without fear of punishment or reprisal. Now, I understand. So here's the thing, and I go back to Cenk Uygur as a good example of this. So Cenk Uygur is, he was an immigrant from Turkey, okay? Just like this guy. So Turkish immigrant, and he was a Republican for a long time. And I can understand, I see why, too. So you come from a place that's poor as dirt, right? or at least from a job as poor as dirt. And you come from a place that's a little repressive. For example, Turkey, kind of repressive, especially under Erdogan. So you come over here, and you're like, oh, yeah, freedom, democracy, yeah. And you don't, and it's sort of like the newness. It's almost like when you convert to a new religion, you get pretty zealous about it sometimes. And I've seen that happen where, oh, super zealous, like, or even if you become an atheist, you're like, yeah, oh, atheism, yeah, it's the greatest thing ever. Let me preach it, let me convert you, et cetera, et cetera. And that does happen, and then hopefully after a while, people kind of mellow out a little bit. And so, all right, that's what's going on here. So this guy's super excited to be an American, totally fine. I'm actually totally fine with that. I don't have an issue there. My issue is, what makes you an American is when you have so much of a love for your country that you want to make it better. And that's the thing. If you didn't care about this country, you wouldn't be trying to do things that make you better, that make the country better. You know what I'm saying? It's not just for like what you can do for your country, what your country can do for you, and all that. Well, what you can do for your country is to try to make your country a better place by pointing out the injustices, by pointing out things that are wrong. And so this is why I'm not being super harsh on Cantor, because again, he's kind of new to this and he doesn't know, I don't think he knows the whole Tucker Carlson thing. And I think he's just super excited to be a new American, so excited that he changed his name to Freedom. And here's Tucker Carlson saying, I can get this guy to bash other people who point out legitimate issues, you know? And so here's the thing. You have to understand, criticizing your country to make a better country does make you more American, because that's literally what America is based on. Look, we want this country to do better for its people, for its citizens. Because understand that like nowhere is perfect. We do things better here than obviously in other countries, and there are other countries that do things better than we do it here. What I've always been in favor of doing is taking the good ideas that have worked in other places, like for example, universal health care, free health care, universal health insurance, that is free, taking those from other countries because it has been shown to work and be effective, and doing it over here. That's one good idea. And so we should do that stuff, take the good ideas, incorporate them into our system, just like we've done with, for example, food. Different food types, bringing them over from overseas on other places. And we kind of put our own little spin on it. We Americanize it a little bit, and then like mass market it. Maybe that's not such a good thing. But you know what? No, you know what? That is a good thing. I love food. And I do love not only the original versions of the foods, but also the Americanized version of the food. Like pizza, for example. I think original pizza didn't have like sauce on it or anything. And so we do take things from other places and ideas, and we bring them over and we make them better. And that's what we're supposed to do. And so, again, this guy is an immigrant from Switzerland. He doesn't know any better. He's Turkish American. And look, when he calls out Erdogan, for example, when he calls out President Xi and the Chinese government, that's totally fine. That's totally fair. You can also call out the Philippines under Duterte, Kim Jong-un. There are plenty of other leaders, plenty of other dictators that are around here that should absolutely be called out. That also doesn't mean that we can't call out problems here in America as well. We've seen some of our freedoms disappear. Like the NSA, for example, who mass collects our metadata, our personal data. We've seen drone strikes on American citizens overseas on vague charges of terrorism. We've seen the government go after whistleblowers like Edward Snowden, Chelsea Manning, Reality Winner, and of course, Stephen Donziger. He's literally rotting in a jail right now for winning a case against ExxonMobil on behalf of, I believe, the Ecuadorian government. So this corporation came in, they polluted a whole bunch of areas, and guess what? Steven Donziger actually got them nailed in court. And you know what they did? They came over here and they used our rigged court system to prosecute Donziger on racketeering charges that were absolutely false and got him locked away. So, yes, we have legitimate issues with our government. Lack of paid leave for workers. Right now in this country, if you're a woman, you have a baby, no paid leave, no paid time off. Go back to the mines. Go back to work. Go back to work. So, how about the rich, for example, paying less in taxes than the middle class? How about wage theft by giant corporations? How about starvation wages, a minimum wage at $7.25 an hour? The lack of national health care. Now, I know Mr. Cantor Freedom doesn't have to worry about any of that because he's a wealthy millionaire basketball player. But that's what a lot of regular citizens have to worry about. So, yes, we do have a right to complain. We do. We do. And it's pretty damn un-American to tell someone to shut up when they have legitimate grievances. Now, let me just, again, point out the irony here. He's saying this on Tucker Carlson. Now, I don't, again, to give him credit, I don't think he knows who Tucker Carlson is, and that the fact that he is being used to push a narrative. Okay? He's just super excited about being an American. Wonderful. Good for you. Great, great, great. But Tucker Carlson, you know what he spent the last year doing? Complaining about the government under Joe Biden. And supporting the January 6th insurrectionists, and even putting up a conspiracy theory that it was a member, an organization in the government, the FBI, that was setting up the January 6th Capitol insurrection in order to make Trump supporters look bad. So, come on. You want to talk about criticizing the government? Tucker Carlson, you're always criticizing the government. And look, it'd be fine if you were actually criticizing it on legitimate things, and maybe sometimes you do to get that, to make sure you got that faux populism thing down. But again, you know, there's some hypocrisy here. A lot of these Republicans really only do complain under a Democratic president. And of course, you could do vice versa as well. I just happen to complain because of the system, because there's systemic problems under both Democrats and Republicans. And so, you know, I hope Mr. Cantor Freedom does learn what actual freedom is, and that it's okay to go and, you know, redress your grievances. That's literally your right as an American. But I don't think he's going to do it if he's hanging out with Tucker Carlson. All right. Brazil wants Bolsonaro tried as a war criminal. COVID numbers are leveling off after 600,000 dead. Says Lumby one. I'll have to look into that. I definitely would support it. Bolsonaro was a disaster. Total disaster. Omar McClune says, that's why he said shut, and he knows exactly who Tucker is. Again, I don't know for certain. I'm trying to be as objective as I can because I don't really know who that, you know, I don't really know him very well. And look, I'm not a sports guy either, so you're saying, you know, some of you pointed out, well, he's got a problem with LeBron. All right, well, again, I don't know. It's not one of those things I pay too much attention to as far as like personal beef. But okay, sure. That still doesn't invalidate the fact that that it's pretty un-American to tell someone to shut up when they're actually having legitimate criticisms. I think every country has things to be proud of and ashamed of. Let's try to do better, eh? No, I agree with you. Are you Canadian? Is it the A or just the fact that you seem very, very nice? Canadian thing. Just kidding. Here I am stereotyping Canadians. All right. Anyway. Let's see. OG Pizza had sauce. You're thinking burgers. No, I don't. I think it was either missing, again, Italian pizza either didn't have sauce or cheese. There was something that was missing there. Something missing. And I have to look it up. So, all right. Original Italian pizza had no cheese. You're making me Google things on the air, so. Oh. No. Yeah, it did have tomato. I don't know. It feels like this is going to be more. Was it pasta? I don't know. All right. Anyway, apparently I need to work on my Google Foo, so that's it. That's all I got for y'all today. Thank you for going around the nation. Pasta. I was close. I was very close. Let's see. Maridano says, much love. Well, thank you. Much love to you as well. Was it pizza, though? Pfizer story tomorrow, yes. No, I'm fact-checking. Thank you. Not supporting my point. I'm fact-checking. Oh, that's interesting. It did have sauce, so I was wrong. Hey, you learn something new every day. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? All right. Let's raid. Go to deep dive with Jordan. It was cheese. So it was cheese. Well, thank you for joining me today. We'll see you all tomorrow, hopefully, 4 p.m. Eastern right here. We'll have more stories. We are going to talk about the Pfizer story. Very interesting. So the whistleblowers and all that. Pineapple does not belong on pizza. It's disastrous. So let's not do that. No, and my wife likes it, so disaster. Super disaster. All right. Anyway, thank you all. Love you. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, nation. See you tomorrow.
Mike Pounds.
Amazing.
police clap. You're kicking me out the door. You're kicking me out the door.